Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bonfire Chats. It's so great to have you here. I'm Donna Tatro, parenting journalist, author, and parent of two amazing teenagers myself. I'm deeply passionate about bringing you the best insights and tools to help you navigate the beautiful, yet often challenging journey of raising happy, healthy kids in our incredibly fast-paced world. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to be meeting with Dr. Joseph Michelli, a name many of you know as a New York Times best-selling author of The Starbucks Experience, Stronger Through Adversity, The Airbnb Way, and many more. What truly excites me about our chat today is Joseph's profound insight into leadership, resilience, emotional intelligence, and very importantly, parenting. These are the pillars that help us nurture our families, ensuring our homes and environments are where kids can truly thrive. Joseph also plays a vital role as an advisory board member of Bonfire Digital Wellness. This youth coaching platform is nothing short of a lifeline in today's digital age, dedicated to nurturing the whole child approach and supporting the overall well-being of our teens, a mission that resonates with so many of us. So, Joseph, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to talk to you. And I want to just kind of jump in first and talk about your remarkable journey of being an author and a New York Times #1, a New York Times best-selling author. Talk a little bit about this for us and how you got there.
Well, thanks, Donna. First off, there's absolutely no one in the world who says, boy, I could just use one more book on my bookshelf. Like, if I could only get that, that would be the greatest thing. So ultimately, people are looking for solutions. They're looking for solutions on how to be an effective parent. They're looking at solutions on how do I get my team aligned around a common vision and goal. They're looking for ways to get customers to come back for more, to have a repeat visit. So I've been fortunate to work with some amazing companies as a consultant, and those companies have allowed me to kind of talk about their journey, the failures and the successes along the way to try to achieve their objectives. And I think that's struck a chord with a lot of us who are just struggling day in and day out to be a little better than we were the day before.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how parents can apply leadership skills, organizational principles to create that supportive and nurturing environment for our teens, because it can be very difficult to be the leaders that we want to be in our families when things are going awry at times.
Well, I think it's easier to be a business leader than it is to be a parent, just for the record. But I think there are some commonalities. I think that parents, if you're lucky enough to have a couple of parents in a household that you have to align together. If you're doing it solo, it's even more challenging. But at least you don't have the alignment challenge, right? In any case, you have to have a vision of what done looks like, to use a Brene Brown term. What do we want these kids to grow up to be, and how do we want them to contribute, and what do we want them to value? How do we want them to engage the world so that they're effective along the journey well past our time with them? So I think that starts with that visionary sense, that sense of our family values. What are we about? What does it mean to be a Michelli, as opposed to, to be someone else? And so we then have to develop rituals, and we have to develop strategies to try to get us there. Sometimes those strategies work. Sometimes we have to recalibrate. They're not getting us where we need to go. Not all kids respond to those values and those strategies exactly the same way. So we have to adjust to the nuances of the individual. But that's true, say, if you're a business trying to serve customers too. Not every customer comes in exactly the same. So you have to be able to read the invisible signs inside of your child and figure out, how do I make adjustments on the course to still try to get us to the outcome, which is a individual who has the coping skills to manage a very complex world.
Let's talk a little bit about whether or not the parents who are parenting together are in alignment. If they aren't in alignment, how detrimental is that? And how can you shift toward alignment if you really do see things differently?
Wouldn't it be great if I got my way, my wife didn't? Wouldn't it be wonderful? I mean, magnificent. My kids grow up just like me, get none of the benefits in my wife's perspective. That'd be just marvelous. I mean, we think we want things to be done our way. And frankly, we're accustomed to a certain way because our parents raised us, right, with certain structures. I think the beauty of bringing people together to raise kids is that we have to find a common path that focuses on the outcome for the children and gives up some of our own ego need to be right, to be the winner, to prevail in this dispute. When those disputes happen about tactics, they're often honest, and I think they can be done outside of the earshot of the kids, so there's not a real power to divide and split the parents against each other based on which style the child prefers. So I think there is a lot of let's have honest conversation about the transcendent goal here as opposed to our individual desires, and then let's make sure that we navigate that in a conversation. And when we come out of that closed room, if you will, and we present our strategies together, we stay aligned. And parents who do that, I think, really do raise kids who understand that there are rules in the universe. We have to find ways as kids to navigate those rules and still express our individuality. And that I'm not going to be able to split my parents and get what I want, because the world isn't built for what I want. The world is built for me making a contribution of my unique talents and getting all the rewards that come from that.
Okay, I really love that. And I think it's really important to for parents to understand that the teens are, those teen years, kids are really trying to, quote unquote, get their way. And so they're going to go to that parent that might be in alignment more with them. And so how do you manage that without splitting what really the value system is in the family? I think that, leads us into kind of emotional intelligence, and how do we use that as parents and within the family, to kind of get our kids to be the best versions of themselves, and to be these critical thinkers, and to have these lives that we dream for them, that they want for themselves. How is emotional intelligence used? Why is it so important?
Well, I first have to do a credibility check here. I am a business author, but I started my life with a PhD in clinical psychology. I worked with marriage and family. My dissertation is in marriage and family systems. So if I venture into this, I am maybe tinkering a bit, but it really is part of what I also preach in the context of business service. But when it gets to emotional intelligence, our ability to regulate our own emotions effectively, to not have our emotions disrupt our life, anger that blows us up, sadness that keeps us out of engaging and moving forward with our lives. Being able to emotionally regulate our own ups and downs is an important part. That's a key dimension of emotional intelligence. Also, our ability to read the emotions of others and to engage people in ways that are not manipulative, but that join them so that we share their emotional reality, we empathize with them, we demonstrate compassion, because there's a great reciprocity in that. The more we're able to understand what other people are thinking, feeling, the better we are at having them care about what we think or feel as well. So it's starting kind of by lending our capacity to understand. And then I think from there, it really is the ability to effectively achieve goals in the world, by virtue of your own emotional abilities. And there's no doubt emotional intelligence is a learnable skill. It's not some finite quantity like IQ, which is really about learning ability. Emotional intelligence is something I continue to work on every single day of my life. I hope to be better at it tomorrow than I was today. And I hope my kids have sufficient quantities of it to continue to develop their skill set so they can be more effective in life. And yeah, I think we as parents have a real journey into our own emotional intelligence. And then also we need partners to help us guide our kids with great emotional intelligence as well.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like I'm working on my own emotional intelligence day in and day out. And just being that aware, having that awareness that that's something that as a parent I have to work on to then model for my own kids, is extremely meaningful. And I think that a lot of us didn't necessarily grow up in a household where emotional intelligence was even talked about, thought about. And so what would you say to parents who are just starting in on this journey of really trying to use emotional intelligence in their own homes?
It doesn't matter where you
For a
start,
beginner.
really. Yeah, I don't think it matters where you start. It kind of matters where we end our lives, right? And I think it is about a growth mindset that says, wouldn't it be great if we were all born with perfect parenting genes and we had perfect parenting role models? And, I'd love to live in that land, but that what if isn't real. So what if we had people who were open to growing and learning and embracing new ideas and giving themselves some grace when they stumble and struggle, because that's a big part of emotional intelligence. We're going to have setbacks. We're going to need to know how to manage those setbacks with grace, kind of dust ourselves off, get back in the game, and look for a better strategy, more effective strategy the next time out. So I really hope that people who are in that place are saying, okay, who cares where I was yesterday? I'm just going to be a little bit better today, and I'm gonna look to people who do it well, right? Like there are people in my universe who are really good at one component. Like I had a grandmother who I would stop by during high school years, and I would just stop by her house on the way home because she just listened to me. I mean, she never solved anything as I think back of it, but her being with me, kind of caring, was extraordinary. And I frequently don't have the patience to do that. I want to get to the solve, right? So I just look to role models like her and I go, sometimes emotionally intelligent behavior is just letting other people be with you in a way that's affirming and validating.
Yeah, just being present, and also giving yourself as a parent grace and self-compassion, to know that you're doing the best that you can, day in and day out. Let's talk about building resilience in teens. I mean, this is so important right now as kids face so many challenges today, so many different challenges than we ever went through. So can we talk about building resilience?
Yeah, I think teenage depression, teenage suicide are topics we really have to acknowledge. I mean, I think there are many kids who have biological substrates for depression. We have to honor that. But I think we also have a lot of situational depression where kids don't really know how to process those intense feelings fueled by monstrous hormones surging through their body, causing their bodies to do all kinds of weird things, but also their emotions as well. And I think we need to have outlets for them to process those emotions. We need to help them once they hit the roof with the emotional intensity to try to find that calming behavior, the things that put things back in perspective, kind of pull the camera back. I say, like, bam, a problem hits you and everything is a problem and everywhere you look, there's a problem. We need people to help us gain some perspective so we can see all around the problem for ways that we can move through it. That I think is an art that we have to help our kids develop, because absent that, once that problem hits and it just looks like there's nothing but problem, it can be a very dark place, and a place where there is no exit for them. And so there's a termination of the effort, right?
So let's talk about that exit. How do you create or help your teens see that exit when they feel that they can't move forward?
Well, sometimes I think it is acknowledging the feeling for a while before you immediately try to go to fix. Because I think if we shortcut the fix, and what do we're kind of giving the message of you're overreacting, you're overly dramatic, get a grip. I mean, you have to get to that at some point, but if you tell people that while they're really extremely in crisis, they frequently can't hear you. And they think that you're not understanding. So I think there's a bit of joining into it for a moment and then kind of meeting where they are and helping them. I often think by asking lots of questions, what else might you do? Is there any other way to think about this? I love to give the directive answers like, there's another way to think about this, and there are other things you could do. But I like to ask those questions and let them kind of process and grow through, I think, good questions. And if they're really kind of stymied, then you might put a little seed out there and see if they'll pick up on that. And if you can't do it, sometimes you can't do it because you're the parent, right? Like you wear many roles. And so you need other people in your network who they can look to and turn to. Maybe it's uncles, aunts, professionals that they can contact and say, that's why I went to my grandmother as opposed to my mom some of those days when I drove home, right? I mean, she just had a different ear for listening, whereas my mom wanted to take the pain away immediately without me necessarily learning the lesson.
Right. And as parents, like, of course, we want to take that pain away, but we know that we've got to let them feel those uncomfortable feelings and move through that process. And that's part of building that resilience. So I want to talk a little bit
I just
about.
want to say one thing too. As parents, we sometimes want to take our own pain away really quickly. So we turn to alcohol, we turn to drug, we turn to food. So I think there is a tendency to think that we can get through these things really quickly, but we know it takes hard work to move on the other side. So sorry to interrupt, Donna.
No, I love that. And that's so true, because I think a lot of the times you'll talk to parents, they say, I want to take this pain away from my kid, but we're feeling that pain. We're feeling that uncomfortable emotion as well. And so I think that it's just combined effort of trying to get rid of the pain, but knowing that kid has to go through it and we've got to go through it with them as well, is such a great reminder. When we talk about autonomy in the teenage years. We all want that for our kids. Our goal is to get those kids to be these productive citizens in life, healthy, happy, joyful. But we've got to let them make mistakes and practice kind of this independence versus support. So, can we talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I hate to having to talk about this because such a challenge. It really, I mean, everything about parenting is a challenge. But this one is hard because you want to give them rope to demonstrate what their competencies are. You want them to be able to make mistakes. You're scared that you give too much rope, they make too big a mistake. It's all this constant trust dance, right? And sometimes they'll not earn the trust, and the trust has to be pulled back, and it needs to be demonstrated before you extend more and more and more. But the reality is, you can't lock them in. You can keep them safe, lock them in their room, shove food under the door, but you're going to end up with an animal at the end of it all, right? So we have to have them figure out how to navigate the complexities of life with all of the mistakes that we made too. And it's, I think, so much scarier for me these days, given the internet and all of the information and all the choices that kids have relative to the generation that I grew up in. But all the more important then, right? Because if you have so much choice, your ability to curate all your options, make good sense of your options, use your tools wisely, not overly depend and create addictions to different kinds of tools, but really develop functional habits, that becomes even more important in times of great choice.
Yeah, it's really difficult to kind of go back and forth because you are trying to give them some space, and then you got to kind of pull back when you're seeing that things aren't working. And really just kind of trying to figure that whole dance out is difficult, especially during these teen years, because you want them to be on their own and you want them to be the leaders of their own lives. So let's talk a little bit about how leaders often turn to coaching to boost their effectiveness, and how can parents adapt this high level coaching strategy to support adolescents development in and out of school?
I think is the greatest model for parents. We hear, I want to be my kid's friend. Well, you want to have a relationship with your kids where they trust you and they believe in you and they know that you understand them. I think that's definitely true. Friend, hopefully you have age appropriate friends. I think, we also don't want to be this authoritative figure in the life of the child where it's our way or no way, right? Like that has no value. But that kind of questioning example that I used earlier, that really is a coach model. That's actually a model called Grow, where you just ask lots and lots of questions of your team members. So I work as a coach in organizational levels. I work with C-suite executives in Fortune 500 companies. And I can tell you, I seldom tell a Fortune 500 CEO what to do. Right? First off, not many people do, but I ask lots of very probing questions that people who might be inside of the organization would be unwilling to do for fear of the consequences of asking the question. But I'm an outsider and they can fire me when they want, right? I think good coaches understand that the CEO is not my client, right? The company is my client. And if I can help the CEO be maximally effective by showing him where the emperor has no clothes without telling him he has no clothes or she has no clothes, that's going to be effective. And I think it's true for kids too. Our job is to help them process the world so they develop healthy coping strategies to navigate it in our absence. If they don't do that, they won't survive well. They'll be subject to addictions. They'll have many mental health challenges throughout their lives, and they'll probably not live their full potential. And so my job is to keep asking questions that force them to think about what is their potential? What are their options? Is that the only way? What else might they have considered? What might have happened if they'd have done this? Those questions I think are helpful. And I think if you look at really good therapists, having been a psychologist who actually worked with kids, I think they get it. Like if you go to a psychologist and they tell you what to do, you better make sure they have a great life going on their own. If you go to a psychologist who asks you lots of questions about how you might do it better, hopefully they're asking those questions to themselves, but they're certainly helping you.
Yeah. So it's that support, that guidance, not telling somebody what to do, which is so, so important. And I think that in this age of helicopter parenting that will not go away, seemingly. I think it's really important, that message of open-ended questions, curiosity, really trying to find out what that teen person needs, how they're feeling about certain things in their lives. So now that we're talking about coaching, I want to talk about Bonfire Digital Wellness and really what this company is doing for our youth. You're an advisor on the advisory board. Talk to me a little bit about why you see Bonfire Digital Wellness as a way for our youth to grow and become the best versions of themselves.
Well, first off, I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of free time. So when I make a commitment to volunteer on something, and I have to really feel very passionate about it because there's a lot of great causes out there. I personally believe the universe depends on the next generation. We need to be able to develop a generation of people who will be great leaders. Someday I'm going to be really old, and I want really good leaders making really good decisions, raised by really great parents who gave them direction, support, and coping skills. So I think Bonfire really resonated with me. I've been through, my kids are digital natives, right? They were raised on computers for the most part. My grandkids, I can't even imagine what my life was like without the internet, heaven forbid. And so having been somebody who didn't have those challenges and knowing how hard parenting was in those days and watching, my kids kind of move through those challenges and then watching my grandkids have it times 50 compared to what my kids had, I just know the speed of stuff is coming at them in unbelievable ways. I also know it's a very powerful tool that can be used for good if we can help our kids leverage that tool in their lives and not have it destroy them, because it also has that capacity. So for me, when I was attracted to it, I was really looking for a digital platform that could engage kids using the best of technology in a very human-centered way. And I was also looking for a way of helping kids process all challenges in their lives, not least of which the challenge of navigating through a digital world. So it all came together. The founder, Bikram Roy, is just an incredible human being who's pouring out so much time and effort to helping families. And so all of that came together. The advisory team is amazing. And I just hope that if you're watching this now, you'll at least consider how this could be one of those resources that could help you be better tomorrow as a parent than you were yesterday and help your kids have the maximum functioning and their run ramp to the future.
I love that. And what I really love about Bonfire Digital Wellness too is that extra person, kind of like you talked about your grandmother. It's that other mentor in your child's life, that coach who can be there when mom and dad are not the people that teen wants to go to. So I think that's what's so crucial, having that ability for our kids to have this group of people that can really be there to support them. So
I think in some ways it's better than my grandmother. Now, the thing that my grandmother had in spades was that she cared about me, and I knew I was her priority. I think great counselors can do the same thing without having to be family. But I also think they have some techniques and they have some skills that she just so happened to possess kind of naturally. But folks who really do it every single day and work with teenagers and have seen this teenage angst over and over again, who know how to help them navigate through the maze of adolescence, where I don't think my grandmother's quite as tuned in as the average counselor is through Bonfire Digital Wellness, but she did her best, and I loved her to death.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The tools are there with the coaches. Absolutely. And just being present, that person who is present in our kids' lives. So let's end on a note of laughter and get some takeaways from your book, Humor, Play, and Laughter, Stress-Proofing Life with Your Kids. Talk a little bit about that. Why do we need laughter?
Well, the first piece of laughter is that the title of the book's a lie. There's absolutely no way you can stress-proof your life with your kids. That's like a way hyperbole. But I do think humor, play, and laughter is both for our kids as well as for us. Parenting is very stressful. So being able to use some humor techniques to find the natural occurring amusement of reality. I remember at times when my kids would put, throw something and put a dent in the wall, and how I freaked out. This is our house. What are you doing? How dare you do this? Now, I look at that dent in the wall now, there's kind of pain plus time is humor, right? It's not as painful anymore. And I almost long for them being in the house throwing things right now. I miss some of the magic of that time. That's not to say I wanted them to get away with throwing things around everywhere, but I think the intensity with which I reacted to that, like the world was coming to an end, I think we have to distance ourselves a little bit from that and use some humor techniques, whether that's exaggeration or misdirection, joy journaling. There's tons of techniques we can use to try to activate that immune system. So we aren't activating the immune system and getting all up in arms with a fight or flight response. So that would be my key takeaway. I had 4 principles in the book, and one of them you mentioned earlier, so it just comes to mind, which is be present. And it's really, I think the first was probably show up. You have to show up as a parent. And just because you're there doesn't mean you're present. So I would add be present next. I also would say enjoy the journey more than the destination. The destination will come to an end. So if you're not enjoying the journey of parenting, you probably aren't going to ultimately get there. And the final one is tell the truth. I think there's a lot of ways we justify not being fully honest and transparent. Plus, we're the parents. We should have it all figured out. But I think the more we help kids tell the truth, we make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes, the more there'll be truth tellers in the world as well and be honest with themselves and others.
I couldn't agree more. I feel the same way. I feel that when I make a mistake and I apologize to my kids, it goes a long way for them to see that I am learning and evolving just as they are. I make mistakes. It's okay for them to make mistakes too. And we can build that repair component when we are being honest with our kids. Is there anything additionally that you'd like to share with us before we let you go?
Just simply thank you, Donna, for caring so much about parenting, to writing about parenting, to trying to open up conversations, because we're all just in this thing together trying to figure our way out. So thanks for being a conduit to the dialogue around that. I've been honored to have some time with you and for allowing me just to share this chat with you today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to have spoken to you, and so much important information for parents out there. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time on Bonfire Digital Wellness. See you later.